Even with voting well underway in key swing states, both campaigns are still scrambling for a small but crucial slice of the vote: Latino men.
And I'm so proud that we're getting support from Latinos like never before.
Part of the agenda that I've rolled out that I am very aware how it would affect Latino men, for example.
Materials for all different roof systems.
Men like Gustavo Portillo, a manager at a roofing supplies company in Tucson. He's not Donald Trump's biggest fan, but he'll be voting for him anyway. What's the main issue motivating you to vote?
To me, the main topic will be economy, because I live on it pretty much on a daily basis. Like the increasing on groceries, the increasing of rents, the increasing of materials that we sell to our customers.
In the last 8 years, Trump has made steady gains with Latinos. Much of that is driven by men. While Harris leads Trump by 26 points with Hispanic women, the candidates are tied with Hispanic men. Trump is especially popular among young men without college degrees, like 33-year-old first-time voter Chris Gonzalez, an employee at Gustavo's roofing supply company.
I love that he's not censored by anybody.
Do you think some of the things he says are offensive or inflammatory?
I think he can be over the top sometimes, but that's just one of the reasons why I like him.
Some view Donald Trump's gains with Latinos as part of a historic realignment. Others are more cautious, waiting to see whether election results match the polling. The Harris campaign knows that they've been losing these voters, and they need to invest heavily into preserving as many of them as possible in the home stretch before the vote.
We've got 6 Spanish phone banks a week. We've got a Spanish team of volunteers dedicated to reaching Spanish-speaking voters. So we're being super intentional about our outreach here to make sure that people turn out and vote.
In Spanish-language TV ads, the Harris campaign has far outspent its rivals. It launched an initiative called Hombres con Harris, with much of the messaging focused on the economy, and it's pulling in celebrity heavy hitters. And on some issues, like protecting immigrants already in the U.S., Harris polls much better than Trump.
We have a lot of family that are dreamers, and if Trump gets his way, he's going to get rid of them.
But the Harris campaign's closing message hasn't made its way to Chris Gonzalez, and he wouldn't buy it if it did.
I think if Kamala gets into office, I don't think much will change. I think it'll get worse.
In a state that Biden won by less than 1/3 of 1%, it's one of this year's biggest questions. Will there be enough voters like Chris to carry Trump back to the White House?
And David Noriega is joining us now here on set. So, David, Trump won Arizona in 2016. Then President Biden won in 2020. That one was about 10,000 votes or so. What's the path to victory look like for both of them this time around?
It was an extremely narrow victory in Arizona last time for Biden, which is one of the things that makes it such an unpredictable state this time around. Each candidate has a little bit of a different path, although both run through Maricopa County. That's basically the Phoenix metro area, by far the most populous state. Candidates don't typically win the state of Arizona without winning Maricopa. So if Trump flips Maricopa from Biden's narrow victory the last election cycle, he's on a decent path to winning. One way that he does that is by peeling away Latino voters from the Democratic coalition, right? That's a big part of what this package was about. There's also, he could pull some unusual independent voters who are voting Democratic in the Senate, but splitting their ticket between Ruben Gallego and Donald Trump. Such people exist, and if there are enough of them, that would bode well for the Trump campaign. As for Harris, she also has to go through Maricopa County. She can either expand the very narrow lead that Biden had there last time around, which again she could do by getting more Latino voters on her side, or at least stemming the flow of Latino voters going towards the Republican Party, or she could juice turnout in Pima County. That's Tucson. It's about half Latino, so it's very Latino Democratic, blue stronghold. If she juices turnout there, she'll be in a pretty good spot as well. Pima's about half Latino compared to Maricopa. Maricopa's 1/3 Latino. Either way, if you're sensing a theme here, Gotti, the road to victory in Arizona involves, in one way or another, Latinos.
And Latinos, I mean, it's 2 million Latinos there for the 7 million voters that Arizona represents. And yet, when we say Latino, that's a lot of different people with a lot of different viewpoints. Have you seen some demographic shifts within the Latino group?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, in Arizona and in the Southwest in general, you're mostly talking about Mexican Americans. You are talking about but you see many generational differences, for example, in gender differences. The gender differences, as we just saw in the package, one of the biggest sort of uncertain things hanging over this election. Will enough Latino men break for the Republican and break for Donald Trump in the end? Will they go out to vote? That's a big gamble on the part of the Trump campaign because these are very low propensity voters. Young men in general, Latino men in general, Latino men without college degrees, among the lowest propensity voters. So even though they tell reporters like me and pollsters who text or call them that they support Donald Trump, that does not necessarily mean that Trump will actually be able to cash in on those votes next week.
And I keep thinking about something that you told me when you were at a rally, a Harris rally, I think a couple of weeks back. You said a notable absence there was the dreamers that you would see in 2016 and 2020 front and center when it came to a lot of like progressive grassroots organizing, and they just weren't showing up in the same numbers as they did for Biden before. Was that still the case right now?
So importantly, I think a lot of dreamers and organizers, people from that kind of generation of organizing in Arizona are definitely still present. They're definitely still involved. The biggest difference, I think, is actually on the Democratic Party side and how much less of a role they have in Democratic messaging right now in the race in Arizona. The Democrats used to put dreamers front and center in their own campaign, their own platforms. That's really where they're absent. They're still on the ground doing the work, but that just shows you how much things have shifted to the right on immigration and how much in Arizona specifically, where elections have been won and lost on immigration in the past, that's not really so much the issue this time around. The main issue among Latinos, people in mixed status families, people who've been in the United States for generations, it's all the economy. And that's what I keep hearing in conversations with people, cost of living, particularly pocketbook issues. And then, some other issues like abortion, for example, has been polling quite highly with this group. Immigration is on that list, but it's not as high up on that list as it has been in the past.
Fascinating analysis. David, thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.